Welcome back to the deep dive. You ever get that feeling like business jargon, it's practically its own language, right?
Totally. Sometimes I need a decoder ring just to follow a meeting.
Exactly. And today we're tackling one of those phrases that gets tossed around like confetti at a startup pitch. SWOT analysis. But don't worry, this deep dive isn't about memorizing definitions. We're going way deeper than that.
We're talking about getting that strategic edge, that almost unfair advantage,
Yeah.
just from understanding this one framework.
Right. Because whether you're launching a new business, a new product, heck, even just trying to figure out your next career move, this stuff matters.
It does. And it's interesting. You mentioned SWOT analysis being a business term, which it often is, but the core principles, those are universal.
Okay, so let's break it down then. We've got our source material here, and it jumps right into the thick of it, talking about these 4 elements of SWOT, starting with strengths and weaknesses. Now, these are internal to the business, right? We're talking about what's going on inside the company walls.
Exactly. It's like taking inventory, but not just of the physical stuff. Strengths, those are your company's superpowers. Think like that brand everyone recognizes and loves, maybe even covets, or technology that's so cutting edge, it's practically from the future.
It's like that it factor, but for businesses.
Yes. Or maybe it's a team with so much experience and expertise, they could write the textbook. Or a customer base so loyal,
They probably camp out overnight for your next product launch.
well, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Okay.
But you get the idea. Those are strengths.
Okay, I'm with you. So then what about weaknesses? No company's perfect, right? Where do those fit in?
Well, nobody's perfect, right? Weaknesses. Those are the internal areas where a company might be tripping itself up.
Yeah.
Like maybe customer service is a nightmare.
Ooh, yeah, we've all been there. Long hold times, unhelpful responses, the works.
Exactly. Or maybe their product development process is stuck in the dark ages. Or their marketing messages are totally missing the mark.
Ouch. Yeah, ignoring those weaknesses could be a recipe for disaster. So if strengths and weaknesses are about looking inward at what's going on within the company, what about the outside world? That's where opportunities and threats come in, right?
Precisely. And this is where SWOT analysis gets really interesting because it forces you to look beyond your own walls and consider the larger playing field. So an opportunity that could be anything from a new market opening up that's just ripe for the taking.
Like everyone suddenly realizing they need, I don't know, a self-folding laundry basket.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a new technology emerging that could revolutionize how your business operates. Or perhaps there are shifts in regulations that, believe it or not, actually work in your favor.
Okay, so opportunities are like those external tailwinds that can give you a boost. Got it. But what about the flip side? The stuff that keeps you up at night, the threats.
Right. Threats are those external factors that could throw a wrench in your plans or worse.
Wrench, that's putting it mildly, right? We're talking about like a meteor headed straight for your business model.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not that dramatic. But you're right. Threats need to be taken seriously.
So what kind of things are we talking about here?
A major competitor suddenly entering a market with a product that makes yours look like a clunky, outdated mess that's a threat.
Oh.
Or maybe there's a massive shift in consumer behavior on the horizon, like everyone deciding they'd rather, I don't know, ride unicycles to work than buy cars.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
Maybe. But the point is, threats are real, and ignoring them can be fatal for a business.
Right, so we've got these 4 pieces of the puzzle: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But it's not just about making a list and calling it a day, right? We need to actually do something with this information.
Absolutely. This is where the rubber meets the road. Because a SWOT analysis, it's not just about identifying these elements, it's about using them strategically to make better decisions for your business.
So it's less about the unicycles themselves and more about what your car company does when it sees that trend coming.
Right. Exactly. It's about connecting the dots between those internal factors, your strengths and weaknesses, and the external landscape, those opportunities and threats, and figuring out how to use all of that to your advantage.
So how do we actually do that? How do we take this list of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats and turn it into like a game plan for our business?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And that's what we're going to dive into next. Well, think of it like this. You wouldn't try to assemble a bookshelf from IKEA without looking at the instructions first, would you?
Some of us might.
Okay, true. Some brave souls might try. But for most of us, those instructions are key. And that's kind of what a SWOT analysis does. It gives you the instructions for how to build a stronger, more resilient business.
Okay, I'm liking this analogy. So where do we even start with those instructions?
Well, our source material actually lays out a pretty clear step-by-step process.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step is all about getting crystal clear on what exactly you're analyzing.
So are we talking about the entire company from top to bottom, or maybe just a specific department?
Exactly. Or it could even be a single product or a new project that's in its early stages. The key is to define the scope of your analysis right from the get-go.
That makes sense. So you're not comparing apples to oranges, or I guess in this case, maybe it's more like comparing apples to entire fruit baskets.
Perfect analogy. Because if you're not clear on what you're analyzing, your SWOT analysis is going to be about as useful as, well, a unicycle in a traffic jam.
Okay, I think we can all agree that unicycles have their limitations. So we've defined our scope. What's next?
Now, this is where things get really interesting and where the teamwork makes the dream work motto comes into play.
Oh, I love a good collaboration moment.
Who doesn't? Right. Because once you've got that clear scope, the next step is to gather insights from as many different perspectives as possible.
So we're talking about bringing different departments together, getting input from like marketing, sales, product development, even customer service.
You got it. Because here's the thing. Each department, each team, they're going to see the company, the market, the competition, everything through their own unique lens.
Right, like the sales team might be laser focused on closing deals, while the customer service team is dealing with the aftermath of those deals, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly. And the marketing team, they're trying to figure out how to package it all up in a way that makes everyone want a piece of the action.
So it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You need all the different pieces to see the full picture.
Precisely. And the more diverse those perspectives, the richer and more insightful your SWOT analysis is going to be.
Okay, I'm convinced. Collaboration is key. But our source material also stresses that a SWOT analysis isn't like a magic solution. It has its limitations.
It does. And I think one of the biggest ones is that it's only as good as the information you put into it.
Meaning, if we're not being completely honest with ourselves about, say, our weaknesses.
Well, that's a recipe for disaster. Or, on the flip side, if you're overly optimistic about an opportunity without really considering the potential downsides.
That could lead to some, let's just say, unpleasant surprises down the road.
To put it mildly. So yeah, honesty is absolutely crucial. But it's not just about being honest with the facts and figures. It's also about being honest about our own potential biases.
Because we all have them, right?
Every single one of us. It's human nature to see our strengths more clearly than our weaknesses. Or to be a little bit too optimistic about that shiny new opportunity.
Or to downplay that threat that's looming on the horizon. It'll never happen to us, right?
Famous last words. So yeah, being aware of those biases, actively trying to counter them, is crucial for a truly effective SWOT analysis.
Okay, so honesty, check. Awareness of our biases, check. What else do we need to keep in mind?
Well, remember how we talked about the business world being like that friend who's constantly changing their hair color?
Always keeping us on our toes.
Exactly. Well, that constant change, that's another key thing to keep in mind with SWOT analysis.
Because what's a strength today,
Could be a weakness tomorrow.
it's true, the business world can change faster than, like, a chameleon in a disco. So what you're saying is, we can't just do a SWOT analysis once and call it a day.
Exactly. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. A SWOT analysis, it's a living document. You've got to be willing to revisit it, revise it, maybe even scrap it and start over, depending on how the landscape shifts.
So it's more of an ongoing process than a one-time thing.
100%. It's about staying agile, staying adaptable. And you know what's really interesting? Even though we often associate SWOT analysis with the business world, and we've definitely been deep in that realm today, our source material hints at how these principles can be applied much more broadly.
Oh, no, that's intriguing. So it's not just about companies trying to sell us, like, self-folding laundry baskets and avocado-powered scooters.
No, though I have to admit, I'm kind of curious about those scooters now. But you're right, the core principles of SWOT analysis, this idea of understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, and then assessing the opportunities and threats in your environment that's relevant in so many aspects of life.
Give me an example. How could someone use this in, like, their personal life?
Well, imagine you're at a career crossroads, maybe feeling a little burnt out, thinking about making a change. A SWOT analysis could be incredibly helpful in that situation.
So instead of analyzing a company, you're analyzing your own career path.
Exactly. Think about it. Your skills, your experience, your education, Those are your strengths.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Right. And then you look at your weaknesses. Maybe you're not great at networking or public speaking, or maybe you tend to procrastinate on big projects. Those are things to be aware of.
Self-awareness, gotta love it.
Right. But then you look at the opportunities. What's out there? What kind of jobs are in demand? Are there any emerging industries that pique your interest?
And then, of course, there are the threats, like maybe the job market in your field is super competitive right now, or automation is threatening to replace certain roles.
Exactly. By taking that step back and doing a SWOT analysis on your own career, you're in a much better position to make strategic decisions.
It's like giving yourself that competitive edge, but in the game of life. I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into SWOT analysis, it seems like the key takeaway here is that it's more than just a business buzzword, right? It's a framework for strategic thinking that can be applied in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And whether you're a seasoned CEO, an aspiring entrepreneur, or just someone who wants to approach life's big decisions with a little more strategy, SWOT analysis is a tool worth having in your arsenal.
I couldn't agree more. It's about knowing yourself, knowing your landscape, and making those smart moves that set you up for success. Until next time on the deep dive, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and remember, a little strategic thinking can go a long way.